symbol of this regime. It's its communication center, and so therefore there's probably unease in the military about what's going on there.
Every minute goes by, thousands of pro-democracy protesters are joining a crowd that is easily in the hundreds of thousands.
Unlike the day before on Thursday, where the statements that were coming out of the government were very much hyped and anticipated, Friday's events seemed very, very subtle and actually very rapid in terms of the development. We knew that by Friday morning, dozens, if not hundreds, of protesters had moved towards the State and Television Building. Hundreds more had gone towards the presidential palace. So we knew that the Liberation Square protesters had slightly taken to the streets in a different manner. And by Friday afternoon, we were told that there was going to be a statement by the office of the president.
We think it's going to happen right now. We're watching state television here now, who are running their titles.
We were actually filming in the square because there were hundreds of people who were there praying.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. My fellow citizens, at these hard circumstances our country is experiencing, President Mohammed Hosni Mubarak has decided to waive the office of the President of the Republic and instructed the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces to run the affairs of the country. May God guide our steps.
Listen to that crowd. That's what they've been waiting for. Hosni Mubarak has gone.
The whole idea of Egyptians just being submissive and worshipping their pharaoh, all this is just, you know, no one can ever say this again. I am so proud. I am so proud.
As an Egyptian, I felt a great sense of pride in that a country that had been so criticized for so many years, that its people were dormant, politically apathetic, disenfranchised, disengaged. Over the course of 3 weeks, they found their voice, and their voice on this night was heard.
Business Latest is brought to you by Capco in just about everything. Business Latest is brought to you by Capco in just about everything.
It is in the details. A look. A connection. The moments that reveal the truth. Award-winning documentaries from critically acclaimed filmmakers. Witness documentaries to open your eyes. At this time on Al Jazeera.
What Gaddafi has done, he dismantled or destroyed the system in the country.
As chaos and violence sweep across Libya.
They're living through fear, they're living through a nightmare.
They're using ammunition, live ammunition.
Al Jazeera hears from those who have lived in fear of Gaddafi's regime.
We don't want him to leave. We want to arrest him. 42 years is too much.
Libya, a state of terror. At this time on Al Jazeera.
This is Al Jazeera.
Hello, welcome to the News Hour. Live from Doha, I'm Adrian Finnegan. These are the main stories. Friday prayers across the Arab world are being accompanied by more protests, including, as you can see, in Egypt. Demonstrations across Iraq over government corruption and poor pay. Water cannon and batons have been used to attempt to disperse protesters in Basra. Libyan protesters regroup as pro-Gaddafi forces launch a new air raid in the east. The scramble to leave Libya, the plight of migrant workers who want to go home but are stuck without any help from their governments. And in other news, China announces a big boost in military spending, making its neighbors nervous. A lot of developments to tell you about this hour. Friday prayers across the Arab world have again been followed by more protests calling for change, including in Libya. Protesters gathered in the eastern city of Benghazi, demanding the end of Colonel Gaddafi. In the last few minutes, we've been hearing reports of civilian casualties in AlJazeera. The uprising has forced thousands to flee. Aid agencies are calling the mass exodus a humanitarian crisis. Let's go live now to AlJazeera's Hoda Abdul Hamid, who joins us live from Benghazi. What's the situation there, Hoda?
Well, the Friday prayers just finished. They were followed also by a small demonstration. I do think that probably the weather here is very, very bad, so they didn't get as many people as they wanted. Nonetheless, the sermon was a very emotional sermon. The Imam called on the people here to remember that this is a cause for, this is an uprising, I would say, for all of Libya, from the border of Tunisia to the border of Egypt. He did address the fact that people might feel at the moment that there's a deadlock, that there's a sense of maybe hopelessness setting into some people, and he tried to cheer them up and saying this is just very close to the victory. He did also call on the people of Sirte to stand up and rise, Sirte being a key city for both sides. If it stays on the side of Gaddafi, then he still has a very strong paramilitary elite force that he can count on. If it actually stands up and takes the part of the opposition, then it would weaken Gaddafi very, very much. Now, after the sermon, we also heard from the National Council an appeal to the international community to boycott the foreign ministry in Tripoli and to recognize the National Council as the one body representing the Libyan people, whether here or abroad.
And what news, Hoda, from the border and what's rapidly turning into a humanitarian crisis?
Certainly, it seems that a very humanitarian crisis is actually developing at the moment. And I am joined here with Simon Brooks. He is the head of the ICRC here in Benghazi, and he's probably going to tell us more about it. Simon, welcome. How dangerous is the humanitarian crisis at the moment?